it. There is no, I don't think I've never met any entrepreneur who said that it was very easy and it just happened. uh, Everyone kind of gives a very inspiring but also horrifying story that how difficult it is, and being alone is a part of it. It's just one part of the challenges of being an entrepreneur. It's all about acceptance, that do you want to do this? So if you accept it, otherwise it cannot, I don't think it can be worked around.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Being Different show. The goal of the show is to introduce you to people and ideas that can allow you to take your life to the next level. Our guest today is someone who struggled finding a rental house in her early 20s. She saw this as an opportunity to solve a problem for thousands of people. At the age of 22, she co founded Grabhouse, India's first broker free house hunting platform. Later in 2016, Grabhouse was acquired by Quickr. After that, she started Pankhuri, which is a woman only community and is helping women find answers, solve problems, and get inspired. So, guys, please help me in welcoming the woman who's really skilled at starting up, building cultures, growing companies, Pankhuri Shrivastava. Pankhuri, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I loved the introduction.
It's a pleasure. So, your
Yeah.
story is really interesting how you started Grabhouse. Would you mind walking us through like your initial phases of starting Grabhouse?
Yeah. So I was a computer science graduate. I was working in an NGO where I was teaching, Teach for India. And for that, I was placed in Mumbai for 2 years. In Mumbai, I had to switch 5 houses, and every time it was a terrible experience because you have to go through brokers and you had to find houses online on your own. It was a very bad experience for someone who has just moved to a big city. I moved from Bhopal, and then suddenly you have to figure out how it works, and no support from internet. And this is 2013. So internet is supposed to be answering all your questions, but you can't find homes. So that is when I thought that this would be an interesting thing to work on. And not that I ever thought that it'll become so big when I was starting up, and I didn't know anything about starting up your own company. For me, it was a project that I was working as a side hustle. And I would just think of many more people like me who
Mhm.
move to metro cities, and they look for homes, and they would go through similar experience. So I started it on Facebook group, and it kind of became a hit. And then I realized that, oh, I've created something that people need. Why not make a website for it? We made that, and then the story that we started helping out a lot of people and got a lot of investors to invest in the business. Then we sold it to Quicker because they wanted to kind of get into this model that we were doing, which was property management. We would manage the entire facility, the entire home for tenants, which was a very lucrative thing for Quicker, and therefore we sold it to them. After that, I took a break for 2 years. I did some consulting gigs, and I was researching on what to do next. Not that I had faced a problem and again I would start something, but I wanted to do something which would have a really big impact, and also be close to my heart about issues that trouble me sometimes.
You know, that's
That's why
really
punk.
interesting. That's a really interesting story. I mean, when I heard it for the first time, I was like really amazed. I mean, that's like one of those stories that people hear about big companies, and that's what it is, right? I mean, in 2013, when you were starting up, and like internet wasn't that big, right? And social media was also like not very big at that point. How did like it expand?
Facebook was. Sorry to cut you.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say in the end?
I mean, how did it expand? Because it's like ads, we in Facebook wasn't big on ads, Instagram wasn't big on ads, and all of that. How did
Hmm.
it expand eventually?
So Facebook was really big at that time. 2013 was big on internet. I mean, we were all on Facebook, and Orkut had died at that time, but Facebook was really big. Facebook grew, and Facebook had emerged from just being a closed network to being, accessible to everyone, and you accessing different people through pages and groups. And groups like, buy and sell, or where to travel or find jobs, they were extremely active at that time when we started these groups. So it was not a I wouldn't say that it was a new idea that I had thought of. It was something that I was seeing around me, and it kind of made sense that, two people are looking for a house. Why don't you bring them together through Facebook so that they know each other through their social profiles, and then you help them find a house of a person who is also on Facebook and is renting out a house. So you bring that social component in it, so that you can find right kind of roommates, or you can find an owner who is okay to let their house to you. All of these, there are a lot of issues when it comes to renting a house, but if you know the person through some sort of social platform, then it becomes easier. It also enables a lot of conversations, and that was the idea. People were buying, selling old stuff on Facebook groups. They were going on carpooling had also started by that time, so carpooling had picked up on Facebook groups. So why not looking for house? That was the idea.
Wow, that seems interesting because now I can think, okay, Ola and Uber also came up with an idea of that from a Facebook group. I think so.
So
So
I don't think that, now you can come up with a completely new idea. All the ideas are actually an upgraded version of older ideas. So you have to look around and see what makes sense, what is working for people. Does it fit in the problem that I'm looking to solve? And there are answers already out there.
yeah, that's true. You know, when you were starting up, and there were so many things that I'm sure you might not know of, and that stops a lot of people to like start up in the first place because there's so much to figure out. The road seems like untraveled, right? So how did you deal with that?
I love reading, so I think that has worked for my advantage.
Mhm.
I read a lot. Initially in school and college, it used to be fiction. Then when I started up, I started reading a lot about entrepreneurs, and there are a lot of great books. Anyone can find them. You just type on Google what are the books that a startup, a founder, or an entrepreneur should read. You'll get a lot of good recommendations. So I started reading, and then it kind of leads you get your foundation right, and then it leads to much more nuanced questions. That is when you go on the internet and you find on your own, or there are a lot of tutorials, videos, blogs, articles, white papers that you can go through to learn anything that you want. You don't know anything, you can just figure it out. It's become so easy. It just takes that commitment to learn something new.
I think lifelong learner is something that every one of us is kind of becoming with the YouTube podcasts, with the ebooks, with the
Yeah,
audiobooks, and it has
yeah,
accelerated the way in which we're also learning. So that's, I think, only helped in the recent
yeah,
years.
absolutely.
So, I mean, I was watching one of your interviews, and in that you talked about that sometimes the startup road can be a bit lonely, and like you're in your own head most of the times, and then you're your own supporter at times. So, how do you think, I mean, that, like, how did you deal with that in the first place? And then, like, how do you advise other people to deal with that loneliness?
I don't know if you can deal with it or not, because we as humans are not designed to be lonely.
Mhm.
The whole structure is in a way that we are always around people. We have family, friends, colleagues. Even on the road, you have so many people. So we cannot really find a way around it. It's only acceptance that it was a choice to go down this career path. Therefore, these are like, these are things that come along with selecting this career path. So you should be okay with being alone, and as you work harder, as your work consumes you, because I think it requires that kind of commitment. Sometimes you might not be able to spend time with the circle that you already have,
Mhm.
and you would feel that you have yourself distanced them, and therefore you're sitting alone. But I think it's just the way. If you have to do something really great, then you have to spend a lot of time on yourself to be able to do that and manifest it in your life. And that alone time is basically when you're becoming strong. If you can survive alone, then you can survive rejections, you can survive a lot of, every day is a challenge when you are working on your own company and you don't even have a lot of support. Every day throws a very unique challenge on your face. Like it could be as simple as your account getting blocked on Facebook because you
Hmm.
were marketing too much, or you were writing too many spam messages, and you would think that I'm saving marketing dollars by organically trying to get people and start conversations, but a social media company looks at it as spam, and suddenly all the good that you're doing goes is reported and your account is blocked and you deal with it. So it's as small as that, to probably hearing 50, 60 rejections from people who understand business and would say that this is not a viable idea, it wouldn't become a $1 billion business, or it's a great boutique business, or you might not have the right team to do it, or
Hmm.
your team members would leave. So there are a lot of disappointments in this path. It's kind of full of it. There is no, I don't think, I've never met any entrepreneur who said that it was very easy and it just happened. Everyone kind of gives a very, very inspiring but also horrifying story, that how difficult it is, and being alone is a part of it. It's just one part of the challenges of being an entrepreneur. It's all about acceptance, that do you want to do this. So if you
Hmm.
accept it, otherwise it cannot, I don't think it can be worked around.
And I think if it were easy, everyone would have done it. Why is only
Yeah.
select few people do it? It's because it's the hard road that not everyone likes to take.
It's also not just about doing it, it's succeeding in it. So a lot of people do it, still
Hmm.
a lot of people do it, but actually the number of people who succeed are very less. If we can right now in 10 minutes count all the companies that have actually made it,
Right.
and and that would be it. And but then there are zillions of companies that have started, shut down. Some have shut down at idea stage only, where someone has a great idea but they could never pursue it. So
Hmm.
right from there till raising millions of dollars and shutting down, all of that is part of it.
Why do you think it happens? I mean, some people make it and some people just don't make it. Like, what do you think are the factors that kind of affect people?
Uh, it's a lot of things actually. So for some people it might be that maybe they are in the wrong market, or they do not expose themselves too much to information that would help them take that decision that this might not be a great idea, or it happens a lot of times that your idea is great but the market is not ready for it. There are a lot of components that need to come together for a success story. It has to be a great idea, a great founder, a great team, brilliant execution. Sometimes you have to, luck also plays a little bit of role in it, that you have to be at the right time, at the right place.
Hmm.
All of these things kind of have to come together, and it doesn't happen on its own. So you have to pull all of these things together to make it work. So if you miss something, it might not work. If you look at stories, then everyone would kind of point out one thing that worked out for them, because of which their company is a success. Or they could point out, for those who've not succeeded, they could point out one thing specifically which didn't work for them, and because of which it kind of did not go well. And it could be as simple as say co-founders not agreeing on a thing and kind of splitting up, to uh, having figured out that okay, at a smaller, at a niche level, this is good to do, but can you really scale it? Sometimes people struggle to scale, sometimes people struggle to get right people to do it. There are a lot of things. I just think that everyone, like I've said, for the first thing, that it's acceptance. Second is also kind of linked to it, that are you accepting that things could go wrong and you know when to stop. So being very, very aware of what you are doing. It cannot be, it's very, one thing I always tell everyone in such discussions is that the way this startup industry is painted, it looks very glamorous and glossy
Hmm.
and so much money. that is only a handful, like a small bunch of people,
Mhm.
and limited number of companies, and very small group. The larger part is not so glamorous. You have to really work hard, very long. 15-16 hours is, if a startup founder says I worked for 15-16 hours, no one gets surprised. But when you say that, a civil services aspirant is studying for 15-16 hours, everyone would be go like, wow, they're very hardworking, they're
Yeah.
very sincere, they'll definitely clear the exam. But you're working 15-16 hours, no one would ever tell you, oh, you'll make it.
Mhm.
Because but that's like a requirement, but it does not make it, it's not a surety that you would get whatever you are trying to achieve. So it's being very aware of when it could go wrong, and if it goes wrong, then saying that okay, fine. So you cannot be emotional about it. You cannot lose the sense of the world when you are doing something like this, while it requires you to be completely immersed in it. So how do you find that balance? Like, I think I read it in a book that even in your shower you should be thinking about your business or what you're going to do to solve this problem that you're facing today. But then they also say that, how do you kind of switch off and you come back to the
Mhm.
normal life and do something? It doesn't happen. You have to really find that balance. You need to find the right people to encourage you, support you, or even pull you back and saying that you've gone insane. You're just spending your time, your money, your energy, everything in doing something which is not shaping up the way you are. So how do you make that self discipline? That how will you identify it? And it's different for everyone. Like, I can talk about myself, but
Mhm.
I think everyone has to create their own, get into it, create their own mechanism, systems, and say that okay, this is the deadline or this is the way I would operate. And it would vary for everyone else. But being aware about how strong you are and how much can you do is advisable, I would say.
That is, I mean, so valuable because a lot of times we have conversations with our own selves, and you talked about how you end up spending a lot of time with yourself, right? Which means you end up having a lot of conversations in your own head, right? And you
Yeah.
start analyzing different various parts of your own personality. What were the conversations that were going in your own head, like for you, especially?
uh One is obviously failure, but I am usually not scared of failing, because I was not doing this to prove myself to anyone. In fact, I was going against everyone and trying to do it because I wanted to do it, even if people don't get it. So I was not very worried about whether it'll fail or succeed. But I started, initially it's a lot of excitement, right? And if things go well, and thankfully for us, it was easy because we were kind of young, and we were in the right market, we were able to raise money. So I would say that in the initial days for me in entrepreneurship, it was slightly easier. But as we grew, there's just a lot of pressure, and you are young, so you don't want to make mistakes. So the conversations you would be having is that, are you taking the right decision? And there are a lot of harsh decisions that you have to take. You're firing someone, you're hiring a very expensive resource, you're moving cities, or you are formulating a policy which would change the way customers would interact with your product, or
Mhm.
and these are big things, whether the button color should be blue or red or green, and how do I find out whether blue will work better or red will work better. You would read books on, I have a lot of books on how to design great products, or how to deliver customer happiness.
Mhm.
But there's no book which kind of answers at that point whether you should have a blue button or a red button. And that, I think those are the conversations that keep on troubling you, because you want to succeed. So and then when suppose you choose red button and it goes wrong, then you have this conversation that I was saying blue button, but I did go ahead with red button. So you're constantly evaluating. Again, I think that the acceptance, comes from, and being extremely aware. These two things come from constantly evaluating, which
Mm-hmm.
again is that you need to spend time on, alone with your thoughts, having those conversations, so that you know the way you reached here. And I think if you have these conversations by actually speaking out loud,
Uh-huh.
then there could be a lot of clarity which comes from it. Some people say if you write a journal, then it'll be much more clear, because you can go back and see why did you take this decision, and then it kind of makes sense. Everything in hindsight makes sense, right? So if you have a record of it, then you can understand yourself better. I don't think I've cracked it. I'm still exploring myself,
Mm-hmm.
but it helps to so all the problems of being an entrepreneur are kind of, strengths also, if played properly.
What do you mean by that?
Like this, the biggest example is that it's a very lonely journey. You have to take a lot of decisions alone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't know yourself well enough, or if you're not confident, which is required, you need to know yourself whether you can build this company or not. You need to be confident enough to ask people to come and join you, for someone to invest in you. There's a lot of, you're just sending out a lot of confidence. Otherwise there is nothing concrete for people to decide whether I want to work for this company,
Mm-hmm.
or I want to invest in this company or not. So it's, you are giving away all the confidence, and you are making them also confident. So you can do all of this when you're confident alone in your head. You've had this discussion, you've had the conversation, you're going for a meeting tomorrow, you're pitching to someone for the first time. You've had that conversation in your head multiple times, and you run multiple scenarios in your head, that this could go wrong, this is the question that they could ask. So you prepare yourself. The more thorough you are with yourself in these
Mm-hmm.
conversations, the better you are able to perform in front of people. So you see, being alone kind of leads to more clarity, confidence, and time also to work on it. If you're copying something, then it's easy. If you're building something from scratch,
Mm-hmm.
then it takes a lot of back and forth, accepting that, oh, this was a wrong decision, taking the right decisions. Maybe it's a big change that you have to do in the middle of the quarter. Do you have the strength and confidence and the right reasons to do something like this? If you have it, then you can sell it to other people, and therefore it could happen. So I think it kind of goes hand in hand.
That is so true. I mean, journaling and speaking your own thoughts out, it just makes something that's intangible, and you just write it down and just becomes, it comes into reality. It becomes real, right? And I mean, for me, even journaling has played an important role to like cut down the negative feelings that I had when I was like struggling with the education system. So I can totally relate with that. And I mean, okay, if you were to go back and fix a few things that you did wrong and do them again and like differently, how would you do that, and what would those things be?
Uh, so I was, and I've started my other company. I'm working on my second company now. So I've already worked on a lot of those things which I think I did not do so well in the previous time. One is kind of, getting understanding what are your strengths, and really accepting things that you can't do,
Mhm.
because no one can actually be great at everything. So I took a lot of time in understanding that what am I good at, and where do I need people to help me build this. And quickly understanding this, the sooner in this journey you realize this, you're able to get people who will help you out.
Right.
So I think getting the right kind of people to work with you, to believe in you, is very important, because you will go through these cycles of, questioning yourself, doubts, all of that. So when you have that team who has believed in you and come and they partnered with you, they are the ones who kind of again clear your thoughts and bring back the confidence
Mhm.
when you're going through that phase. So one is that I would have done that sooner if I have to do it again, and I'm doing that now. Second is that communicate a lot. So I tend to put so all of these things, like reading and journaling and okay with being alone, are not like signs of an extrovert. But entrepreneurship, and especially a startup founder, at least one founder, if you have multiple founders, then at least one needs to be extremely vocal, and someone who is not ashamed at all, can shamelessly go and talk to people. And I think that is a skill. If there is one skill that a startup founder should have, it is that you should be shameless about asking, and you can talk and explain. That thing, I initially I used to get a little shy, that how can I ask them for so much, that I just yesterday I asked them to refer a candidate. Now
Mhm.
today again I'm asking for some credits, and tomorrow I'll ask for something else.
Mhm.
But that's how the that's how it works, because we don't have any resources. We can't like pick up the phone and say, secretary, just get this. We have to make things happen for ourselves, so we have to reach out. I would do that much more effectively, and it's a constant process. You become better at things as you understand different nuances of your business and what you need. So I think these are the two things, that be more expressive, I would say,
Mhm.
and talk to people and ask for help a lot more than you actually do, without thinking why am I doing this, because otherwise we are not trained to do that. No one tells us that go and ask for help a lot of times. Even in school, if you think, everyone said that figure out on your own,
Mhm.
but no one encouraged asking a lot of questions or asking for help a lot of time. And I think that's okay. As a child, you need not ask for so much help, because you need to get on your own
Mhm.
feet and figure out your own life. But and that's the challenge. So as a child, you can't say ask for help a lot, but
Uh-huh.
when you're a founder, you should ask for help. You should not be ashamed, because someone out there knows what you are not able to do, and will be able to come and help you. So the chances of succeeding really go high.
And as they say, if you never ask, you'd never get, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's also true. Yeah. But see, that is not something which is ingrained in our system. We are very shy. If you look at our general behavior also in public,
Hmm.
if you have to go and ask someone for a spare chair on their table, we're so shy sometimes, that should we
So
ask, should
many
we
things
not
that we
ask?
go on
Yeah,
our
yeah, we're
heads.
just like, so it's very difficult to clear that out and do it. So it requires conscious work on this issue. And only then you can improve on it. So I think I would do that also.
I think that's very important because being able to speak out comfortably and express yourself and your idea in front of people is kind of the most important skill if you boil it down to that. Because you might have
Yeah,
the world's best product with you, and if you're not delivering it out to other people, you're not sharing it with other people, it's just
yeah,
as useless as something in the corner, right?
yeah, yeah, true.
And even when we talk about that, you talked about how we're conditioned not to speak. I always like am reminded of a small child or a toddler, and I think all of us are born public speakers, right? And it's like when we are like really small, we haven't seen a lot of world. We cry out loud in front of strangers. Like even if there are 100 people, we don't think that we cannot cry out loud here. But it's when
Yeah,
we grow up, a lot of people say, okay, you cannot talk here. You stop asking. As children, we're really curious beings, and we ask a lot of why questions. Why this? Why that? And a lot of
yeah,
people around us don't have answers, and they're like, shut up, don't do this, and
huh,
accept the things as they are. And that also kind of conditions us to like not speak,
yeah, yeah.
right? So okay, if you were to teach like a entrepreneurial lesson in like 5 minutes, like entrepreneurship 101, and
Hmm.
describe the pillars of entrepreneurship, what would
Hmm.
those be?
Uh, One, find people who want to do this with you, whatever you're trying to do. Two, figure out an idea which either you have experienced yourself, or you have basically a problem which you've experienced yourself, or you have a good idea about the market that you are targeting. So either it could be that you've worked in that industry, or you come from a family where your parents have worked in that industry, so you have like a close connect to the industry that you're solving for. Then just start small, quickly test it out in small segments. It could be your friends, it could be just general publics. Again, social media has made it easier for us to access other people and get their feedback. So just start small. Don't make big plans around your idea that this is the product and it'll look phenomenal, only then I will start talking to customers about it, or when I get these many users, that is when I would probably launch a page or something like this. But just start and figure out whether people want this or not, and just talk to them so that you understand what you're building. A lot of times we feel that we are building a big thing, but people might not need it. Like, I listen to a lot of ideas and sometimes I feel that who would use it, but I'm sure that some people would be listening to my idea also and thinking the same thing, that why would she do this? And but I know I'm confident about it because I understand the TG, and I think I have much more command over the industry for which I'm building than the other person. So that again gives me confidence. So that is extremely important. Then the last thing would be reiterating this, that it's a very difficult journey. So you need not think that it's fancy, you will earn a lot of money and
Mm-hmm.
suddenly you will be on media all over and life is great. uh, Touch wood, that should happen, but it doesn't happen that easily. It's a very long journey. uh, every day is uh, every success has like lots of nights of hard work which has gone into it. There's this saying also, one, I don't remember it exactly, but like 1,000 days of work and then one success. So but you have to really be aware of what you're getting into,
Mm-hmm.
accept it, and then be confident about it. Yeah, I think that is what. So talk to a
Yeah.
lot of people, and if you start feeling that this is not going to work out,
Mm-hmm.
then obviously be objective about it, but then quit. Or don't get emotional. Like, people say this startup is your baby. Obviously you will not throw away your baby and you will not shut down your baby. And no matter what the baby does, parents have to bring them up and take care of them till they start taking care of themselves. But you cannot treat your startup like a baby. Yes, you have to survive. You don't have to give up easily. And when things become difficult, you have to figure out ways to survive. But that is different from being stubborn and not accepting that this is not something which I can scale, or where there is a market. There are so many stories out in the market where ideas were before their time. If they would have been launched now, probably they would have done better.
Mm-hmm.
So being very, very aware, I think it's a lot to do. A lot of people recommend meditation. I don't do meditation, but it works for a lot of people. For me, reading works like a meditation.
Yeah, I think I do both, and I think both give you the pleasure of having that calmness in your own self.
Yeah.
And I think that was really great, like a short 5-minute entrepreneurial lesson, like Entrepreneurship 101. I mean, since you've read a lot of books, I'm guessing you might have someone who inspires you a lot, like an entrepreneur who inspires you a lot. Who is that for you?
No, I'm my own muse.
That's interesting.
No, so like I said, that if you're copying someone, then it's it's easy. But if you are creating something from scratch, then you have to be original. So I admire some people, but it's not that I would follow them blindly. So I would admire the way they think, or the way they write, or the way they story tell, or they were able to figure out something really interesting, or some nice quote. But there's no one whom I would really put on pedestal and say that, okay, this is the person that I want to be. So no idol as such.
No, yeah, that's also fair, no? Um,
Yeah, I mean, everyone is, so I feel that people are very complicated human beings, right? We know that everyone is so gray, and to like or dislike someone, they need to be either black or white. So no one is like that. If you like one person, the way they are running their company, you know something about them
Mhm.
that you don't like. Or even for all of these, like Elon Musk or Steve Jobs, we've heard both kinds of stories, right? So how do you
Right.
make someone an idol if you're not sure how they are? So that's why I'm my own muse.
Yeah, that's
I want to better myself definitely, but I'm
uh-huh.
my own muse.
Yeah, I think I was listening to Matthew McConaughey's speech, something like he was receiving an award or like for an Oscar, and this is what he said, like my hero is me myself 10 years ahead.
Ah, nice. I like
And
that.
and when I
Yeah,
reach 10 years, like when I'm 25 and I reach 35, my hero is like me at 45. And I think I can find some resemblance in that,
yeah, yeah.
right?
Thank you.
So, okay, before I ask you my like last question, what do you think is the impact that you want to have on the world?
So my company, my recent company is called Pankhuri. I've named it after myself. We are essentially a community for women to come and discover different things, be a part of a club where they meet like-minded women, and
Mhm.
they're able to communicate to each other, express themselves, have a voice in a very safe and trusted environment. Social apps today do not provide that safety to women, and I'm sure they're doing a lot of things to ensure that nothing bad happens, but it's just that you don't find that kind of connection with the people whom you meet on social app unless they are your
Right.
offline friends also.
Mhm.
Here we are trying to build a new kind of community where everyone helps each other out. It's only for women, and I want them to feel invincible. And how do we do that? Especially women in tier 2, tier 3 cities, because I come from a small town, Jhansi. So I feel that there is just so much potential in women out there, but they don't find ways to be able to showcase that, or even develop that, upgrade that. So we're building that. Through that, my idea is that I should be able to give women a place to talk, discuss, solve their problems, and go back to their worlds and create a lot of impact. Because I personally feel that women can do so much more, and they're capable of actually doing a lot of things together.
Mhm.
uh, and whatever they do, somehow they are just more focused. They're able to understand things well. They go deep down into, and all kinds of women, for their, someone who understands, comes from a rural background, would understand everything about their lifestyle really well. They would not get, other cultures, other traditions, but they really understand their culture and
Mhm.
tradition well. That's also a skill. So I really want to have impact on global women community, not just India.
Which is great. I mean, uplifting women and like being able to bring the potential that they have is, I think, something that's incredible, right? So, okay, my last question is like this. Okay, if you were to go, like, tell yourself, like your 19-year-old self, and tell something like the secret sauce or secret advice that you like just can whisper in your own ear, what would that be?
It'll all fall in place. So don't worry. I'm like a very anxious person. Sometimes I will like, why is this not happening? And what is this? And I'll get very frustrated sometimes. Now that I look back and I'm like, what? Why was I worried? It was supposed to happen like this. It all falls in place.
That's that's I think really great. So thank you so much, Pankri, for like joining us today, and it was a wonderful conversation that I had, and I think a lot of people will be inspired, like benefited from the talks we had, and like eventually this will inspire them to start on their own entrepreneurial journeys, and yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.